Red River Horror Podcast. This is episode number 40. I am your host, Joe Zakrzewski, joined by Red River Horror founder, Eddie Caiazzo. Hi, Ed. How are you?
Good afternoon, Joe.
And we are also joined by an old buddy of ours, Dave Sullivan. Hi, Dave. Welcome to the show.
Ed, Joe, I'm excited. We have a good topic.
Yes, we do, because we've been talking about this on the show that we were going to cover Saw, because I am very excited for May 14th, the new movie Spiral from the Book of Saw. And I have lived a long life of thinking that the first one is pure and so good that everything after it is absolute trash.
That's a good start.
Yeah. Well, so I mean, this is where I'm coming from.
Yeah.
It was something where I love that first movie so much that's like we're not even going to talk about it too much. This is going to be the next two episodes are dedicated to Saw, and I don't think we're even going to touch the first one after I was talking with you, Dave, when you said that it's like every horror podcast covers that first one in depth. And it's just so good. The movie itself is just so good.
And I think everyone also has that opinion that everyone after it is trash. But I think it's for reasons that aren't exactly about the movies themselves.
And you are 100% correct, because what made me start to hate the franchise as a whole was the tagline, "If it's Halloween, it must be Saw." It's like they're not even Halloween themed.
No.
What is like? Why is that Halloween?
It's not. It just happens to come out around Halloween. That's what I mean. If it's Halloween time,
Must be time for a new Saw movie.
That's right.
And that's why I think, Joe, it was important for this discussion. You had actually pointed out Spiral. I had no idea that they were going to be doing another Saw movie. Chris Rock, Darren Lynn Bousman, like it's going to be a pretty big deal. We saw the trailer, and we'll get to that later on. But I got excited again for the first time in a long time. But I do think it's important for us to flesh out the Saw series because, one, it's very important to horror fans. There are fans. I mean, think of your favorite franchises, right? Halloween, Friday the 13th. We were just talking before we started the pod here. Horror fans love those, and some of those movies are absolute garbage. So
Yes.
So it is time to delve into the Saw series, and as David said, also, a lot of other horror podcasts, and we love you guys out there, but a lot of other horror podcasts, they touch the first one, go really in depth. We're gonna touch the first one and keep moving on.
Absolutely. I mean, and we all agree that the first one is just by itself just a fantastic movie.
Yeah. So if we were to rank them, would everybody here agree? Saw is the best one?
Oh.
Okay. Oh,
Well, we'll get there.
all right. I like that. That's a good.
Yeah. So, I mean, I'd say the only takeaway from the very first one is some of the acting's a little weak, but it's a lower budget movie, so
Right.
you can't have.
And one of the your lead is the co-writer, not an actor.
Exactly.
I guess you could. I would say the first one's probably is the best one, but I think it would take the amalgamation of 2 through 7 to fight it.
Okay.
Because I think without the first one, those other ones don't exist. Like we were saying, there was never an intent for sequels to exist. It just did, I think, exceptionally well in the box office, and they saw dollar signs, so they did it.
Yeah.
It just turned into something that I don't think there was any intention for. But what was created, I love.
Yeah. So you actually got into like the full story arc, whereas for me, I pretty much, I've seen 4, 5, and 6, but that was, very recent.
Right.
Well, I saw 4, I fell asleep when we were watching 4 the one time, when it first came out on video. And then I stopped at 3, mostly because I was talking to you about this. It's like one of my favorite things from the first one that kills 2 and 3 for me is I love the character Amanda in the first one.
Right.
That.
Yeah, that was a strong character.
And it's a simple character too.
Yeah, and then so now let's move on to the second one, and it's like my big beef with the second one is her being more involved with Jigsaw, because it kind of takes away from it. It's like I just thought it'd be a lot cooler. Like imagine this person who just goes through this insanely traumatic experience and just turns their life around.
Right.
Like, because it's like is he a monster? Or is he actually helping people?
Right. Or do you not like her character in the second one because it's not what you were picturing? Or is there some other reason that you do not like the character?
Well,
like from like what you're actually seeing, not what you were expecting to see.
Yeah, I think in the second one it was just more of just being like, oh, great, like this was unnecessary. But like it's clever, it's well written. The second one has just has a great twist in it that starts right from the beginning. They all have a twist.
But if you take, I think Amanda's shining moments, as we know, are in Saw 2 and 3. And even in those movies, she's radically different. In 3, she's very aggressive.
Yep.
A lot more outspoken.
Yep.
A lot more sexy, if you ask me. I mean, that hair.
Yep.
That hair. Ooh, she had a good look. So, but anyway.
That's the one that killed it for me, like with her, where it was just like, it's like, who is this? Who even is this character?
Right,
it's
right.
3 different people with the same.
Yeah, I never took it that personally with it.
Yeah, well, maybe I just whined.
That Shawnee Smith?
Yeah.
That's Amanda.
Shawnee Smith, that's Amanda.
So I remember that being a strong
As known
point
from Becker.
from Becker.
Yeah, she was from Becker.
So I remember, Joe, you very specifically, that scene was impactful to you in that she literally had to dig through the person she loved, intestines, body, whatever. She had to rip through that to get the key.
Wait, that's who that was supposed to be?
Was he a lover? I thought he was just some guy.
I think it was
a junkie.
No, it was just a guy.
Just another junkie.
Oh,
I don't even know if it was another junkie. He was overdosed. They overdosed him.
so I thought they were both junkies. I could be wrong.
I don't think they ever said that. I think it was just your partner in the cell that shares a cell with you.
Okay.
I think it was literal as like the person that is in your cell.
Oh.
In the same way that Dr. Gordon was Adam's partner in one.
But they're connected somehow.
I don't think so. Not in this case.
Okay.
So she pretty much cuts him open, gets the key, and unlocks the reverse bear trap thing,
Yes.
which is legendary in the Saw franchise.
Yeah.
That I remember you. What was the line? It was, he helped me.
He helped me.
in the first one.
Right.
So she clearly got what she was picking up, what John was putting down. Tobin Bell, the main Jigsaw guy, and that was very impactful for you. So to take that away then. And now make her a part of the team is like, oh, okay. So I remember that affecting you in that way.
Right.
Yeah. So that's Joey's grapes.
Right.
Yeah.
And there's actually a part in Saw 6 that actually kind of like, it doesn't really tie back to that, but to go into what we were just saying with the he helped me thing. It focuses around a focus group that is kind of like a support group that is our main protagonist in this particular episode. He runs a support group for a bunch of Saw victims, most of which we don't really see. It kind of presumes that there was a lot more victims out there, or not victims, like subjects. Subjects that we weren't privy to in the other films. They were just letting us know that this story goes beyond what we were just shown. And some of the faces actually they show people that were actually in the older movies, which I thought was cool. Just bring them back for a short cameo. But a lot of them do say it was the best thing that ever happened to me.
Yeah.
So they survive.
They try and get that feel back in there.
Right. And there's, I think, I forget what her name is. It was one of the women. Oh, she was the one that cut off her arm in 5. In the beginning of 5, I think. The black woman, you know what I'm talking about?
I believe so. I just can't remember why she was there.
She was, I think they were loan shark, like predatory loan sharks, her and her partner. And they each had to cut off a pound of flesh to release the, it was like a scale.
Oh, man. Yeah.
And, whoever, did it first, they'll get unlocked. But she was there, griping and whatnot. But like there was another woman in that focus group, and this is I think it was Saw 6. But they flash back and show what her trap was, which wasn't actually in a movie. They just showed quickly a scene. I can't believe I remember this so vividly, by the way. It's weird. But she's hanging, from a rafters, and there's a bunch of running upside down lawn mowers. And she's hanging, her husband's hanging, and she slaps him and knocks him off, and he drops and gets, mangled, and she survives. But her test was, you live in an abusive relationship with this man, and you're not willing to do something about it. Now you're being confronted with the situation. Now you have to do something about it. Sacrifice yourself, and once again, be the ultimate victim to this man, or save your life by killing him. And I think that's at the crux of all of Jigsaw's traps for the most part.
Mm-hmm.
So, and that's where it starts. Saw 1, written by James Wan, Leigh Whannell.
Mm-hmm.
It starts with John gets a cancer diagnosis and he's going to die.
Right.
And so the reason he's doing this, I'm just boiling it down, the reason he's doing what he's doing to people is because they are ungrateful to be alive, and he's eventually going to be dead.
Right.
So I think a big gripe is as we got further away from 1 and 2, then all of a sudden it became about the contraptions. And we're going to talk about that. We're going to have a 2-part series on this. We'll talk about those in the second one because that's why some people love the series, is for that reason. But Dave, when would you say it starts to get further away from that initial idea of people being ungrateful for what they have in their life and more about the torture and the traps and things like that?
And now I'm trying to remember which one this was, but it was the one where we discover how his wife, who's Jill Tuck, how she had the miscarriage.
Way out of his league.
Oh my god,
no
dude!
Way.
That one scene where it shows her,
when they're
in that dream sequence wearing that like purple nightie.
Yeah.
Christ in heaven!
It's like that dude. That dude is not married to her. Like no. Unless, he does,
That's like
he is witty. He's got a way with words. I guess, he converted that.
I don't know how old she is, but she looks like the hottest 60-year-old I've ever seen.
He looks like he's 20 years older than her.
Yeah.
And it's she looks great. And it's just I know he's a cancer patient, but still, just
He's a very
look at
smart
it.
cancer patient.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean,
Anyway. We're getting off the point here, Joe. All right, so... just to correct you real quick, it wasn't the cancer diagnosis that triggered this
right
for him. It was he had the cancer diagnosis and then he tried to kill himself.
Right.
He got in an accident and he got it looked like some part of rebar or something stuck in his side. Right. He almost died. And then I think that was what really triggered I was ungrateful for the life that I had, and I just tried to, end it because of my own, fears, pretty much. So that, I guess, was his test, to kick things off. But anyway, so I forget which one it is. I want to say it was either in 3 or 4 where it shows Jill Tuck closing up the clinic. It was like a drug rehab clinic. And one of their main patients, we see him several times in the series, mainly in this one. And like I said, it's here 4, maybe, I think. I don't know. Who cares? It's in the Saw series.
Right.
But anyway, she is closing up. He swings open the door, scares her, knocks the keys off, but she's, 7-8 months pregnant. So it slams and hits her in the stomach. She's bleeding. He runs and steals some stuff out of the clinic. He sees that she's in trouble, and he runs. John is sitting out in his car. Looks like he's doing Sudoku or something, just hanging out in his car. Sees Cecil run out of the clinic. He sees Cecil see John, and he runs. John runs back in the clinic, sees Jill struggling, takes her into the hospital, and obviously she tells him what happened. And I don't know if it's either later on that day or the next day or something like that. But Jigsaw sets up what I would assume is his first trap. Mm-hmm. And it is Cecil tied down with leather straps and some knives in his wrist so he can't move. And he has that trap that looks like it's sort of 10 butcher knives, kind of faced in a V. And he has to press his face into it to release the lever.
Yes.
Right. But if he tries to move the straps, I think there's a shotgun right underneath his mouth.
Jesus.
So it's you literally press your face and you can't wiggle your way out of it.
Right.
But it's very primitive. It's just, a rig with a shotgun with a string and something that was obviously household knives with levers. It was very, I could make it, it's not that big of a deal. And then, Cecil breaks out of that and there was obviously just a big bramble of tangle wire behind John. Cecil ends up killing himself that way. But I don't know where I don't think he ever says like where he started. Like, I'm going to start killing these, putting these people in really elaborate situations. But it's presumed to be pretty early on because, Cecil was, did what he did.
Right.
Right.
But then eventually he puts his wife in the same situation.
What do you mean?
So he sets her up in a trap.
No, he didn't.
He didn't set up the blonde lady. What's her name?
Jill Tuck.
Jill Tuck. Yeah.
No, Costas Mandalore did that. Who was Detective Hoffman?
Aha.
He did that at the end of 6 because she was the only person that that's alive that knows who he is.
So that's why it's important for us to. And Dave, you made a good point because I wanted to kind of break this up into episodes like Saw 1 to 4 and 5 to 7.
That's what I mean. They all weave together.
Yeah.
They all weave together. Yeah, Detective Hoffman first appears in, I think, the beginning of
4.
Yeah, in the beginning of 4. It's the one that opens up with the guy in the pendulum.
Right.
Whose name is Seth, who we find out killed Detective Hoffman's sister, and was never meant to be a trap, because if you watch the trap, he actually does free himself, but it doesn't release, and he ends up getting cut in half.
Right, and that's the setup for that actually like plugs in a plot hole in the first 3, where I think it's 2. John starts saying, he's like, I despise murderers.
Right.
And it's like, that's why Amanda ends up losing, because she kills intentionally.
Right.
And then it's like, well, some of his, it's just like, that's how they filled it in. And it's like she couldn't have done all that. And it's like, oh, there's a knockoff guy. And that was Hoffman. So it's like,
no,
like Hoffman started as a knockoff Jigsaw. And then he's just like,
yeah, just with that first kill.
Yeah. And that set up that,
Yeah, but then he started working with them.
Yeah.
That's what I thought. So I thought John and Hoffman eventually, or, John knew he wasn't going to be able to continue, so he brought someone else in who would have been Hoffman.
and I think you find out a lot more guys are involved than were let on. In the last one, what was that, Saw 3D?
Yeah.
Or no, was
or
it I don't know,
Jigsaw?
Yeah.
That was the one where the game that's being played is just a replication of one that was already through, and the main culprit was a lab worker. Who we find out through flashbacks in that one that he was, because he had experience in the military and he was working on, I don't know, it was either like plane engineering or some sort of fabrication work. And it turns out that answers the question of, how the hell does John know how to make all this shit? It's like, who has the time? And I think that's them realizing that we need a way to explain this.
Yes.
And it turns out that guy, he was an early, Jigsaw victim, as we find out, blah, 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 blah. And he has this experience in the military. So it turns out he was doing all the fabrication work, like the welding and stuff like that.
And then do we ever get covered how he finances it? Is he just independently wealthy?
Yeah, I forget what it is. I think it's answered in the second one. I think when Detective Matthews is interviewing him, the police are doing all their work, and who the hell is this guy? Because we didn't know who John Kramer was before the second one. I forget what the answer is, but I think they might actually use the phrase like independently wealthy from, like he had properties around. Like I forget,
which would make sense.
Either that, or I'm just mixing this up with law-abiding citizen. But I feel like it's, but I feel like it's something similar to that. Like he has money wrapped up in something. I forget.
Okay, so like that's an easy cover your ass. It's like he's got the money and he's just blowing it for
like
his passion project.
Yeah.
So here's another question for you that I have a hard time figuring out is what's the actual like timeline?
What from
like from 1 to 8, like how many years
to resolution
is this going on for? Because there's like,
I don't know.
I'll put it this way, in like 2 to 4. So the 1. Let's just pause for a second and think of how great the character's name is, Eric Matthews, and how they missed on just someone calling him Mr. Matthews, but he's Detective Matthews. I just wanted to hear a Feeny, Mr. Matthews, But so like he ends up surviving after 2, and then he's hanging over like that ice block in 4. His hair's longer. He's got a thick beard.
Oh yeah, like he's been like tortured for 6 months, like just in yeah,
exactly. So it's
Yeah.
just like, what is the
yeah,
and then like they do a really good job. Something that I didn't put together, like or like didn't really care to pay attention to the first time around until like we started talking before we started doing this episode. Is like there is a really clever writing to all of them that links it all together.
Right.
And you actually remember it. So
yeah.
So I'm like, whoa. And like actually like watching some of them again and being like, yeah, this is actually really well.
It makes sense.
Yeah, pieced together.
Yeah, and I think that's part of the flaw as well. Like if you go a few years and you've seen, say, 1, 2, 5, 4, and then none of the others, and then someone just puts on Saw 5, you're not going to know the relationship of any of these characters.
No.
You're picking up in the middle. You're picking up on literally on chapter 5.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you can't do that. It's not like just putting in Jason Takes Manhattan and it's an independent story regardless of what's going on around it. Yeah.
I mean, you could always pop that one on.
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. When he kicks the boom box, it's classic. So
who wouldn't go on a cruise from North Jersey to Manayunk? From North Jersey to New York and drop them off in the middle of the hood.
Right. Yeah, why not?
Yeah.
So if there is an order, so if you look at the first 3 films, Saw 1, 2, and 3, screenwriter of Saw 1 was Leigh Whannell.
Yes.
2nd and 3 was Leigh Whannell and Darren Lynn Bousman, who also directed 2 through 4.
Right.
It says Leigh Whannell was the screenwriter on 3, so he at least hung in there for 3 episodes of this.
Sure.
Yeah.
So I guess you can't just watch 1, 2, and 3. If you had to put together, you're listening to this podcast and you're thinking, I've never seen any of the Saw movies but the first one.
Right.
Would you watch them out of the order that they were released? Now, like
to like piece it together?
Yes.
No.
Okay.
You can't. You
Okay.
can't. I think 1 and 2 you can watch together because the way that 2 ends, say that none of the other ones existed, you could watch those 2 and the way it ends. You know, as far as you know, the doors close on Detective Matthews at the end of 2, and he's screaming his son's name. It's haunting. I think it's just screaming Daniel. It's just a really down note. It's like the end of the first one. There's no assumption that any of this is going to continue, but maybe it does because I think Amanda's the one that slams the door on him.
Right.
She does.
I believe so, yeah.
He does. And all the other ones end with some sort of note like that.
Mm-hmm.
At the end of 5, when Hoffman thinks he's getting away with everything, with Joe and I talked about this, I think, a little bit earlier. Mm-hmm. He thinks he's getting away with everything, and I forget where he gets the cassette tape, but it's pretty much Jigsaw saying that you think you'll walk away from this untested.
Yep.
And then,
Was
all
it-
hell
it was
breaks
in
loose
his-
in 6.
Yeah. Was it in his gut during the autopsy, or that's the first time?
Who opened that? It's whoever did the autopsy, I would assume.
Yeah.
No. I think
No.
Yeah, I think they open him up sometime in the beginning of 5. But I honestly forget what that one says.
Yeah. So before, a few years ago, I'm gonna tell you guys something, and a lot of this credit goes to you, Dave, because it's like I never gave much thought into how everything ties together, and how one of the other things with these movies is how in the first 10 minutes there's a hint as to what the twist is going to be, and if you don't pay attention, you miss it.
And Saw 1?
All of them.
I don't know what you're
single one.
Oh my gosh.
Give me a for instance.
Yeah, this is great.
2. He's like Detective when he makes it. He's just like, all you have to do is talk to me.
Oh, you mean like that?
Yeah.
Which makes it kind of like a riddle.
Yeah, and 5 had. So let me put it this way. So I thought 5 was so bad way back. I'm
Yeah.
like, this is so bad that I cannot watch any more of these. And I'm going to compare this to another movie that I originally thought was so bad I can never watch it again, and then watched it again years later, just with like a more calmer, and really enjoyed it, which is Star Wars Episode 1, The Phantom Menace. And once I just treated Gungans like Ewoks, I'm like, okay, we're all right. This is actually a fine movie. 5, I actually really, really liked.
When did you watch it again?
2 days ago.
Wow.
Right. Well, which one's in 5? What?
5 is the one. So when we were driving, and then you started giving me the whole synopsis of it, that I completely like, where it's like the 5 people start, they're all chained together.
Oh yeah. You
And
have
it's
to work
like,
together.
don't do what your instincts tell you to do.
Right. And that's what I love about these movies.
Yeah.
Like I mean, I don't even want to say it slaps you in the face, but I mean, it really gets you thinking about, like, I don't know, after you've seen these movies, don't you kind of meet a particular piece of shit in your life and you say, like, man, this person could really use one of these lessons.
Yeah.
You know, I think, you know, even like the guy, I think William, I think that was Saw 6. I think he was the insurance agent. The guy that, then how he relates to Jigsaw was he came to him with some sort of, it was like a Swedish therapy that, you know, would require X amount of extreme money to have coverage for insurance. Mm-hmm. And this is actually, they mentioned Jigsaw's finances here as well. William, the insurance broker says, you know, it's John, you know, like I forget how he responds, but he says, don't worry about the money. I have the money. It's about principle. And you're deciding who lives and who dies by this algorithm of health that really doesn't take into account, you know, the number one factor is someone's going to live or die. And that's kind of like been Jigsaw's mantra, you know, and what is that? You know, the will to live. You know, it doesn't take into account somebody's desire to do whatever it takes to survive. And I'm trying to do what it takes to survive by doing this experimental therapy. And you're telling me I can't because I'm 60 some years old and the odds are that I'm not going to survive, but you're not giving me the opportunity to try. Mm-hmm. What Saul does, I think, is give the people the opportunity to try. Who are you to say what is fair and what's not, or whether this is too hard or, you know, I can't do this. You will do what it takes or you won't. You know?
Yeah.
So Saw 6 is what you were just referencing?
Yeah, I think so. That was the main character's name is William. He's insurance. Am I right?
I'm just making sure, because Saw 6, that's the one you were speaking about. Lone sharks, Eddie and Simone, locked in head harnesses with screws aimed at their temples, have 1 minute each to carve flesh from their bodies with their provided cutting tools. Because that's the other thing about Saw movies. It always opens with this kind of... after the first one, it always opens with this kind of...
There's some sort of tug of war going on.
Yeah.
One that I think is really cool, I think it is 4, the one with Riggs. That opens up with the lawyer. His name's Art Blank, I want to say. He is just like a crooked lawyer. He ends up being the one that is like in charge. He's kind of like the Zepp character of 4. He's the one that is monitoring Riggs while he's going through the maze with Hoffman in the chair and Detective Matthews as the ice clap. You know, above his head. I forget what's going with that. Oh yeah. That one opens up with Art. We don't know it's him yet. His mouth is sewn shut, and there's this other guy. I think it's just some insignificant, you know, guy they just threw in there.
Oh, he's got his
eyes.
His eyes are sewn shut.
His eyes are sewn shut, and they're both chained together
Yeah.
in what looks like a mausoleum or something. It's badass. But there's like, you know, random, like there's a little hatchet and this knife and whatever, but it's implying that, you know, this spool is winding together. It looks like a winch. It's winding this chain together, and one can see, but one can't speak, you know, so it's, you know, obviously the one with the fucking eyes is probably going to be the one that gets through.
Yeah, he's got the advantage, but it's like, I mean, that's also one that's like, you know, I wrote off for, and then watching it again, I'm like, this is super cool.
Yeah. Oh yeah. And it's great. And Riggs is the topic of 4. He is one of the cops that's really close with Detective Matthews.
Yeah.
He worked with, I think her name's Carrie. She was the redhead in the first and second one.
Yeah. So like, here's the thing with like 4 though, is like 4 and 2 like happen at the same time. Like they like tie it together as if they're like happening.
No. It doesn't, because Carrie is presumed dead, and Eric Matthews is missing.
Right.
And It can't happen at the same time because
I felt like there's parts with like the Hoffman character, like it's just like is this happening all at the same time?
It's not possible because the whole premise of 4 is around Detective Riggs. He's the big black guy that he looks like a SWAT member.
Yeah.
I think I forget which character says it, but just like, man, what's up with Riggs lately? And the response is everyone around him keeps dying, and that's implying that Matthews is missing, Carrie is dead, and his whole test is
don't run through a door.
Right, he goes through unsecured crime scenes, and he's trying to save everybody, and in the process, nobody ends up getting saved because you're trying to be a bull in a china shop.
So was it 4 and 3 that are happening around the same time?
So I can read just a little bit of the plot of 4.
Yeah, sure.
Go for it.
Microcassette found in John Kramer's stomach during his autopsy contains posthumous message from John that informs Detective Mark Hoffman that he will be tested. Elsewhere, 2 men, one with his eyes sewn shut, the other with his mouth sewn shut, awaken in a mausoleum, chained at the neck to a winch that begins reeling them in. The muted man is forced to kill the blinded man to get a key from his collar and free himself. Following Detective Allison Carey's death in a Jigsaw game, a SWAT team led by Hoffman and Officer Daniel Rigg and Carey's FBI contacts Peter Strom and Lindsay Perez arrive at the crime scene. Nothing the physical limitations of John and his apprentice, Amanda Young. Strom speculates that a third accomplice was involved and becomes suspicious of Rigg. That night, Rigg, who's become obsessed with rescuing Jigsaw's victims since Detective Eric Matthews' disappearance, is attacked in his home and later awakens to find a video from Jigsaw. The video reveals that Eric is still alive, having been saved and held captive by Jigsaw for 6 months after he was left for dead by Amanda.
I was thinking 6 months.
And that the only way to rescue him and Hoffman, who has also been kidnapped, is for Rigg to pass a series of trials that will teach him to let go of his obsession if Rigg fails to pass his tests in 90 minutes. Eric and Hoffman will be killed. Now that's 4. I can continue if you want.
I mean, that's pretty much it.
Yeah. Here's a question: is the guy who survives, who has his mouth sewn shut, is he in the support group? Does he have a cameo in that?
No, he gets killed at the end of 4. Rigg shoots him.
That's right.
Okay.
Rigg shoots him like laying on the ground.
Right.
And he's going to reach for a tape. And I forget what he says to Rigg. He's like, "No, you stupid fuck!" Like it's like he thinks it's he's doing it, and he goes to reach for the tape, and then Rigg shoots him in the meantime. Once again, he wants to against his testament of he didn't learn anything, and he hits play, and he's trapped in that room forever. And, he's gone.
Wow,
badass.
Yeah. Hoffman stands up.
Yep.
And I think, I don't know if he shocks him or something, but, just locks the door on him.
Yeah.
So these films, I mean, Saw...
Matthews shoots Riggs as he's coming through the door. That's what happens.
That's right.
He shoots him because he needs the timer to run out.
Right.
And Riggs is supposed to wait for the timer regardless of what he's being told. He's trying to rush it. And Matthew knows that if he comes through that door before it hits 0... he's going to lose his head. And that's exactly what happens.
Yep.
All right, so guys, what do you think? Cooler death? That one with Matthews and Saul with the ice blocks crushing his head, or
brutal
Final Destination 3, where the black jock football player,
where
he's lifting the weights
and the weights collapse on his head.
What happened?
Dude, so these dudes just in a weight room. What is it's like? It's not traps. What's the machine where it's like you're pushing down and it's like bringing weights up back and forth?
What, the fly?
Yeah. So he's doing that, and he's like shredding into it, and then like, they come in, they're like, "Hey, blah blah blah." He's like, "What?" Boom. It's just, dude, it's abrupt and insane.
I think it was more dramatic in Saw, and I think it was funnier in Final Destination 3.
Yeah, campier.
Anyway, sorry for that aside.
Let's give the people what they want.
It's all good. It works really well in Saw, and it's like, here's the where does it?
Yeah, it's like tragic. It's the exact thing that he was trying to prevent.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And it's like, so where does it, like? I didn't get to watch the very last one yet, but where does it finish?
Oh Christ. Where does it finish?
So are you speaking about Jigsaw, the one that was released years later after the consecutive
I've watched
ones?
this one a bunch of times too.
So have I, and I honestly can't remember.
The exact
because it's still
like
Hoffman.
No, Hoffman's dead.
He dies in
So-
6.
Yeah.
Nearly a
Has nothing to
decade
do with him.
after the death of John Kramer, criminal Edgar Munson is pursued by police after being cornered by detectives Halloran and Keith Hunt. He claims he must start another game in exchange for his own survival and activates a remote trigger before it gets shot out of his hand. However, a shot hits Edgar in the chest. He collapses. Elsewhere, 5 people, Mitch, Anna, Ryan, Carly, and an unconscious man, awaken inside a barn with buckets on their heads and chains around their necks. A tape recording from John Kramer explains they have all sinned and must sacrifice some blood to survive before the chains begin pulling them towards the wall of buzzsaws. Most of the group survives by cutting themselves, except for the unconscious man who awakens too late. Their next test reveals that Carly is a purse snatcher who accidentally caused the death of an asthmatic woman. To save others from being hanged, she must inject herself with one of 3 needles, one containing an antidote to a poison in her system, another one saline, and the last one acid. She refuses, so Ryan stabs her with all 3.
That's a great one too. I love. That's one of my favorite deaths because I like the syringes. They have different numbers on them, and it's that just I forget. Oh, there's kind of a hint in her recorder. What's the price of someone's life? And one of the numbers said like 362, and it turned out to be like when the asthmatic woman died, she stole $3.62 out of her purse. So that's like that. What's the cost of someone's life?
Huh.
And like I was saying, the syringes like had just like different numerical values, and the 362 one was like obviously that was probably the one that was antidote.
Okay.
Probably.
So, because Joe, it does come back. The weird thing about Jigsaw is it does connect. There's a reason it exists. So if you've never seen it, it's like, so this is how everything gets involved. So Halloran and Hunt investigate the discovery of corpses that appear to be unconscious man and Carly, whose deaths fit John's modus operandi. Halloran becomes suspicious of pathologists Logan Nelson and Eleanor Bonneville. Later, Edgar is abducted from the hospital. His corpse is found inside John's grave when it is exhumed by police. Meanwhile, Ryan attempts to escape through the door with the words "no exit" on it, but his leg falls through the loose floorboards and is ensnared by wires. Another tape recorder reveals he will be punished for breaking the rules and must pull a lever to be set free. Anna and Mitch enter a silo. They're trapped inside, forcing Ryan to pull the lever and sever his leg to rescue them. Eleanor reveals
that's a good one too. The piano strings. Yo, girl, they keep tightening. Hurry up!
I'm trying to see because I know that this ties back. Eleanor reveals to Logan she's a fangirl of Jigsaw, has built replicas of many of his
You remember what
traps.
this female looks like? Eddie.
No, I don't.
Eddie.
It's been a while.
Google it real quick. Keep talking.
All right. Hunt follows them and informs Halloran. Elsewhere, Mitch is revealed to have sold a motorcycle with a faulty brake to John's nephew. John is a nephew now, of course, resulting in his death, and is tested by being lowered into a funnel with a spiral-shaped blade powered by a motorcycle engine inside. He attempts to stop the blade by reaching a brake at the bottom of the funnel, but is ultimately killed. Halloran finds a corpse appearing to be Mitch in Eleanor's studio, calls for her and Logan's arrest. Logan convinces Hunt to let them go after telling them that the bullet which hit Edgar was fired by Halloran, whom he and Eleanor suspect is the new Jigsaw killer. Eleanor deduces the game's location. She and Logan depart for the barn with Halloran in pursuit. Meanwhile, Hunt finds jigsaw-shaped pieces of flesh in Halloran's freezer, further incriminating Halloran. In the barn, Anna and Ryan are shackled to pipes at opposite ends of the room. John Kramer, apparently still alive, confronts them and reveals that Anna suffocated her baby, framed her husband, who eventually committed suicide.
That's a great one too.
Ryan caused his friends death in a car accident. For their final test, he leaves them a shotgun loaded with one shell and departs, saying that it's the key to their survival.
So good.
Anna tries to shoot Ryan, but the gun backfires and kills her. Ryan finds the keys among the debris hidden inside the shell and destroyed in the blast. With no way to free himself, he's left to die. So this is the last piece here. Logan and Eleanor are ambushed by Halloran at the barn. Eleanor escapes while Halloran is drugged by an unseen assailant. Logan and Halloran awaken in collars rigged with laser cutters and are told to confess their sins to survive. Halloran forces Logan to go first. He confesses to mislabeling John's x-rays years prior, causing his cancer to go undiagnosed. Despite confessing, Logan is apparently killed. Halloran then admits to allowing criminals to walk free for personal gain, and his collar deactivates. Logan is revealed to be still alive. Also, the man apparently died in the first barn game, which occurred 10 years prior, deciding that Logan should not die over an honest mistake. John saved him, recruited him as his first apprentice. Logan then reveals that he framed Halloran as the new Jigsaw killer as revenge for releasing Edgar, who killed Logan's wife, and that he recreated the barn games using other criminals that Halloran let go as victims, claiming that he and Halloran were the final participants and that Halloran broke the rules by forcing him to go first. Logan reactivates the collar and slices Halloran's head open. Now, where I thought that was going... So, eventually, though, this is... And maybe I passed it. Carrie Elwes, Princess Bride, he's back.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
He's back at some... I thought that's where it was going. But apparently not.
And I think the way they explain his character, or the way that he was keeping people alive. I think they had him. I think they might show a scene with him fixing Eric Matthews.
Okay.
Like that type of stuff. Anything like medical.
Right.
They brought him with that. What was the name of the guy, the pathologist? What was his name again? Oh God, what's his name?
Edgar Munson, presumably.
So you say like that last one, Jigsaw, you enjoyed it?
Yeah.
Like overall? Like,
Well, I was going to say that his character, when Eddie said he shouldn't be killed over an honest mistake, that honest mistake was he was the guy that labeled the charts when Jigsaw was diagnosed with cancer. He said that he was clean and he wasn't. It was the guy who was... Now, that's what he was referring to when he said honest mistake.
So I'm just making sure. John saves him. Logan then reveals... Logan? He framed Halloran as the Jigsaw.
Yeah.
Who killed Logan's wife. Logan reactivates his collar.
Right.
Shoot, I don't know who the pathologist is. Let's see.
I forget his name. He should be one of the first people in the cast. He's one of the main characters.
Matt Passmore is Logan Nelson. Tobin Bell is...
So it's Logan.
Yeah, Logan.
Yeah, it's Logan. Okay.
Yeah, I thought where that was going. So maybe that was 6, where Carrie always came back.
It was 6. It was 6 because that was focused on the guy that was going around to talk shows and different kinds of like Oprah type talk shows as a Jigsaw survivor and now best-selling author on his experience, and that's where the focus group comes in. They kind of show that was a thing. Because this guy, I forget his name, the main character from 6. I'm sure Eddie can find that real quick.
Is 6 3D?
Probably.
6.
Yeah.
It's all 3D.
Yeah. With Chester Bennington?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Really?
Yeah, he was in it for a minute.
Yeah.
Good scene.
Yeah.
But yeah, the main story around that one is centered around the guy that is going around on book tours, making a absolute killing, saying he's a Jigsaw survivor, and he starts this. I forget what he names the focus group, but it's a support group for Jigsaw survival members. And then they, just hear some guy, doing this in the background, and everyone looks, and it's Dr. Gordon, and he gives some a very ominous type of speech, and someone turns over, what's up with the creepy guy, and I forget what his name is. Once again, the main character from 6. He says, he's been coming to these meetings for months. You just don't pay attention to him. He's just an old guy. Yeah.
Yeah, right.
Mm-hmm. But he's obviously onto it because we find out Dr. Gordon by the end of 6. It was a cool reveal. We find out that he's been helping Jigsaw since his experience.
Since he got crawled away.
Yeah.
I could have sworn you see his dead body.
I could have sworn too. We'll have to revisit that. But they show Jigsaw, or I think it shows him like cauterizing his leg in one of them. And then, I don't know. John obviously saves him. I forget exactly which one that is. But that scene's shown.
Yeah.
But I do think, I do remember seeing what you're talking about. But I don't know. I could see that being in either.
Yeah. So
you know what? If they're going to show that scene, I'd have to imagine it's sometime in 3, because there's a scene where Matthews breaks himself free. He gets out of the room and he starts chasing down Amanda. Mm-hmm. And I could have sworn in that chase down scene in the hallway, like they walk past Gordon's body.
Yeah.
But maybe not.
Maybe it wasn't.
I'd have to go back and look at that, because I know there's at least 2 dead bodies in there. There's Zepp and there's Adam.
Yeah.
Their bodies didn't move.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I could have sworn, Dr. Gordon's body was in there, but maybe not, because I can't. I mean, these are guys that are making these movies. I can't imagine they'd make that obvious of a glaring.
Mistake.
Yeah. Where the body's there, but I don't know. We'll have to go back on that.
Yeah, and that's the thing. It's kind of hard to, Dave. That's why you're here, because it's hard to get past that. The first one being so good, you said you listen to other horror podcasts, they break apart the first one, how great it is, and the rest are trash.
Sometimes.
But the thing is, it's important for people to note just how ridiculous Friday the 13th got, and A Nightmare on Elm Street got, and to really think that they're
glorified.
They are, and they have their fans, and people love them. So I can understand that there are people who appreciate the Saw series for what it is, the full scope, and why they would be bringing it back.
And it's the way that all the characters are tied together. I really enjoy the moral aspects of it. I do view John Kramer as sort of like a twisted messiah in this story. Mm-hmm. I do think he does have good intentions. I don't think any of it is malicious or towards people that honestly probably wouldn't deserve it in some case.
Right.
And the people that do survive it, they're usually grateful for the experience that they have. I just think it's a good series. And I think that a lot of times when you get criticisms from it, I think it's people going into it with the wrong expectation for what they're viewing, or they aren't taking the context of all the other movies into service. Because I mean, even if you watch them just by themselves, what's really to make fun of? Like, there's nothing, like, none of the kills are really over the top. The mechanism, I mean, they're over the top, but the mechanisms work.
Right.
You can see how the contraption would work. And if you want to scoff at it, how is he doing that? Isn't he dead? Well, you just aren't watching the series, because, yes, he is dead, and you find out he wasn't even making them in the first place.
Right.
So you don't have to explain how he's doing it or how it seems like he's 5 places at once, because there's, as you find out, a lot of people on the inside of the police department that are helping out with this. Of course, he'll know that the down low on all these, convicts. Detective Hoffman is a pretty high in the department.
Right. And he's a big dude.
Yeah. He's a big man.
Costas Mandalore.
Yeah. So it's like, that's what it's something that I didn't give credit back when they were coming out, is like how good this story ties together. Mm-hmm. But even like, I appreciate it now, like watching them again, and I'm going to finish. I'm going to watch them all. Right. I just didn't have time to do it before we recorded. But definitely have a fresh appreciation for it. And what makes me excited for Spiral is that it's is it going to be a fresh take? And I think it is. Like,
yeah.
It doesn't have to tie into these other than it's inspired by it.
Sure.
It can be a different location, different city, like so much to it.
I know nothing about it. I haven't seen the trailer. I haven't looked into it. I'm probably just going to watch it. How these days, I don't know. I mean, half the time I can't log in correctly to HBO Max, so I don't know. At this rate, I'm never going to watch Mortal Kombat or Godzilla. But yeah, I'm excited for it, like any other new Saw movie that would come out. Mm-hmm. I'm not worried about seeing how they're going to tie it in, because they're going to make it relatable in some sort of way.
Yeah, I feel like it's a fresh start. And
I suppose.
Like, it could be just a completely independent thing, like going back to where the first one was.
Yeah.
Because it looks like it has a feel where it's going to be more detective focused rather than the kill focused.
They all were.
Which
other ones weren't detective focused?
They all were, but I think the first one, where it's like more about the hunt of Jigsaw.
Oh,
rather
yeah.
Had a 7
rather than
feel
what's-
almost the first one.
Exactly.
You say 7?
Yeah. I mean, that was what they got compared to. But
Yeah.
hey, that's going to bring us to a conclusion for episode 40. We have discussed
It's a good spot.
We've discussed it. We're getting excited.
Yep.
And guess what? We're going to do another episode where we're going to talk about again. So for now, you know where to find me at Red River Joe on Twitter. You can reach out to us also at Red River on Twitter or redriverhorror@gmail.com. Let us know your thoughts, how you think about those Saw movies.
Also,
Yeah.
go to KeystoneRetro.com.
That's right.
Yeah, if you want to buy some merch, some collectibles, things like that, you type in the code Red River at checkout.
Get 10% off.
Yeah, man. So I just wanted to mention that.
That's right.
Probably.
KeystoneRetro.com. Red River, 10% off.
Yeah, and it's probably it's a lot more than Funko Pops and things like that. You might find some Saw contraptions. Who the hell knows? But
Or you could get a Billy the Doll Funko Pop. Does that exist? It should.
It does.
Oh, it does.
They're out there. They're out there. So that being said, you know what to do. Oh,
Wait.
You want to keep, what do you got?
Hashtag Tony Todd Tuesday.
Okay.
Hashtag Women in Horror Wednesday.
That's right.
All right, we're good. Sorry, Joe.
All those good things that, those hashtag games that we do on the Twitter, they are fun. And don't remember, kids, to keep traveling those channels of fear.